Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing good. You all are safe and healthy at your home. Well, I'm Mrs. Sadima Bashista and today we are meeting for our social science history class. So today will be our third class for the chapter The Beginning of the Colonial Rule in India. And in today's class we will be taking up the topic the different methods that were adopted by the English East India Company to capture almost the other places of India after Bengal, that is the subsidiary alliance and the doctrine of lapse. We will also be looking into the different wars that were fought between the Marathas and in Mysore, that is the Anglo-Mysore War and the Anglo-Maratha War. So from today's class, your learning objectives will be knowing about what is subsidiary alliance and what is the doctrine of lapse and why and what happened after these two methods were introduced. And also you will get to know why the Anglo-Maratha War or the Anglo-Mysore War was fought. Why did it take place? Let's look into the chapter. All right, so the expansion of the British Empire. So in our last class, if you can remember, there was British had almost conquered the entire province of Bengal, right? So after conquering or establishing supremacy over Bengal, they wanted to introduce different methods to expand their to extend their expansion policy to all over the country. The first was the subsidiary alliance. Now, what was subsidiary alliance and who introduced it? The subsidiary alliance, it was a political instrument which was introduced by Lord Wellesley, and he was the British Governor General of India during which time 1798 to 1805. It was Lord Wellesley who was the Governor General of India, and he introduced this method for expansion of British supremacy in other parts of the country, which was known as the subsidiary alliance. So between whom this subsidiary alliance was signed? It was signed between the English East India Company, between the ruler and the company. And what happened after signing this subsidiary alliance? It was said that if the ruler have signed this subsidiary alliance, the ruler will get protection from his enemies. All right, the British would provide, or the East India Company would provide protection to the particular ruler if there is attack from his enemy. Now, what are the agreements or rules that are made that are laid down under subsidiary alliance? Let's see. Now, if you see into the agreements, you will get to know how much the British control the rulers, all right, how much they have, just to expand just to have a sole control over the entire country. What are the different, treacherously, what are the different methods they have introduced? So one was the subsidiary alliance. So in this alliance, the first point, it was said that the Indian ruler who will come in an alliance or who will sign this alliance, he had to disband his native army. So every ruler has his or her own army. So according to this subsidiary alliance, that ruler will have to disband. He will not be allowed to keep his own army, and he will have to, rather, instead of having his own army, he will have to maintain a British army within his state. He will not be allowed to keep his own army, rather he will have to keep a British army. The next was the ruler had to pay for the maintenance of the army, and also it was not enough there. It was also that the ruler will have to pay for maintaining the British army, all right, and also a part of his territory was to be surrendered to the British for this purpose. And as because British will be providing with a strong British army, in return of that, the ruler will not only have to pay maintenance fees for the army, but also the ruler will have to give up or surrender a part of his territory to the British. All right. So now you can see how much what kind of cheating that this British officials do, how selfishly just for benefiting their own causes, how much they exploited the Indian people. They, not only the common people, the rulers were also exploited. A company official called Resident was placed in his court, and it was said that a resident, who is a resident, a British person will be there in the court of the ruler to supervise what is going on inside the king's court. All right, so a British person will be there who is known as a resident. He will be always there in the ruler's court. Then the ruler would not employ any official without the consent of the British. So another agreement was that if those rulers who have signed the subsidiary alliance, the ruler will not be allowed to keep any official. He cannot recruit or employ any official or of any other European power. No official, British official, nobody. He cannot recruit anyone without the permission of the British. That means now the entire power lies in the hands of the British. Then the ruler would not negotiate or form alliance with any other ruler. And the last agreement under subsidiary alliance was that the ruler will not be allowed to form any kind of relationship, will not be allowed to have any kind of relationship or alliance with any other ruler without the permission of the British. So this was all about subsidiary alliance. So you got to know that subsidiary alliance, it did not benefit the Indian rulers at all. Rather, what happened, the Indian rulers, they started to lose their independence. It was only that they will be providing protection during the attack, if there is attack from its enemies. Only apart from that, there was nothing good in the subsidiary alliance. So after signing the subsidiary alliance, the rulers actually became subservient or not dominated by the English resident. All right, the resident, you remember, who was a British official who will be placed in the court of the ruler. So the resident started to interfere in the internal matters of the Indian states. All right, so in that way, the British also, the rulers, they started to lose their independence, all right, because everything was looked after by the, taken care by the British officials only. The Indian rulers did not have any freedom, any kind of independence. Further, this alliance proved advantageous to the English as it enabled the company to maintain large forces. As you can remember, that the ruler had to pay maintenance for maintenance fees for maintaining the army. So in that way, it definitely benefited the English company officials only, because through that they were getting a lot of money from the rulers in the name of maintenance of the army. And this money that they were getting, it was at the expense of the Indian rulers, or it was expense at the cost of the Indian states. And after this, slowly and eventually gradually, Indian rulers such as the Nizam of Hyderabad, the rulers of Mysore, the Nawab of Awadh, the Peshwa Bajirao II, and several other rulers accepted the subsidiary alliance and came under direct rule. So slowly and slowly, what happened, many rulers, they started to come under the control of the English East India Company after the introduction of this subsidiary alliance. The Nizam of Hyderabad also came under the direct control of the English East India Company after the signing of the subsidiary alliance. The ruler of Mysore, the Nawab of Awadh, the Peshwa Bajirao II, all these were the rulers who started to lose their freedom, and all these places came under the control of the English East India, direct control of the English East India Company. So this was all about the subsidiary alliance, where the ruler had to sign an agreement and in return the British company would provide them protection from the attack of enemy. But in reality, the rulers actually lost all their freedom after entering into a subsidiary alliance. As you know, as they were not allowed to keep their own army, they had to maintain a British army, and also they had to pay maintenance fee. There will be a resident, a British officer every time at the court, who also started to interfere in the internal matters of the court. So in this way, the ruler started to lose all his freedom. The next was the Doctrine of Lapse. The next method that was introduced for extending the British control all over the country was the Doctrine of Lapse. So this Doctrine of Lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie, and he was again the Governor General of India from which time? 1848 to 1856. So what did this Doctrine of Lapse said? It said that if any Indian ruler can come under the direct influence of the East India Company, died without a hire. Supposedly, if any Indian ruler died without having a male hire, if he does not have any son who will take place of him, then that person, that place will directly come under the control of the British. But in Hindu law, a provision is there that, you know, if somebody is not having his own son, he or she can adopt a son. But the British made a rule that if he or she wants to adopt a son, they can adopt, but British approve it has to be approved by the British. But what did the British do? They actually, whenever if somebody wanted to adopt a son, the British did not give any approval. Why? Because they knew that if they gave approval, that they will not be able to conquer that place. So Doctrine of Lapse, it was actually again another selfish method that was introduced by Lord Dalhousie, where by through treacherous means they again wanted to control the other parts, the other parts of the of country. Like, you know, if it said that if any Hindu lawyer, a ruler, he or she did not have a male successor, then that place will directly come under the control of the British. But as Hindu law says that any Hindu ruler, if he or she is not having his own son, then he or she can adopt a son. Then that can be adopted, but with the approval, permission of the British. But the British, what did they do? They hardly gave any permission, because they knew that if they gave permission, then that place, they will not be able to have direct control over that place. So that is what it is said. In reality, they refused such adoptions. And through this Doctrine of Lapse, the British East India Company, they also captured many kingdoms, those in Satara, Sabalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur and Jhansi. All these were the places that were captured through the policy of Doctrine of Lapse. All right. So in 1856, Awadh was annexed by the company on the grounds of misgovernment. So again, under Doctrine of Lapse, in 1856, through this policy only, the British again captured the British captured Awadh. On what ground? It said that there was misgovernment, that the ruler was not able to rule it properly. That is why the British East India Company removed the ruler, the Nawab of Awadh, and it took Awadh under its direct control. And because of this, there was a lot of unrest among the people of Awadh. They became really angry. How can you remove the Nawab from his position? So people became really furious. So they were enraged by the way how Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, so who was the Nawab? They were really angry how Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was removed from his position, just because the East India Company said that there was misgovernment, he was not able to rule properly, that is why he was just removed. So that is why people got angry with the removal of the Nawab of Awadh, who was Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. And because of this anger, the people of Awadh, they started to protest, or they started to revolt against the British. So this was all about the Doctrine of Lapse. Now let's look into the conquest of Mysore. So after conquering almost all the places, you know, now the British moved towards Mysore. So Mysore was a source of threat to the growing British influence in India. All right, the company had to face stiff opposition. So the people of Mysore, they were actually, you know, always resisting the British attack. All right, they were resisting the British rule. So the British thought that Mysore is a very strong threat for them. All right, because as the British were achieving constant opposition or resistance from the people of Mysore. And who was the leader at that time, in ruler of Mysore? It was Hyder Ali. Who was Hyder Ali? He was the son of Tipu Sultan. All right, so the British were constantly facing, you know, resistance or opposition from Hyder Ali. So the rulers of Mysore did not encourage trade with the companies. So the rulers of Mysore, they disagreed to have any kind of trading activities with the East India Company. But and that is why this the British official, they got angry. How can you reject, like, how can you say that you cannot have trade activities with us? But on the other hand, Tipu Sultan was having close relationship with the French. All right, Tipu Sultan was not, no, the rulers of Mysore were not agreeing to have trade activities with the British, but Tipu Sultan was having close friendship or relationship with the French. And that is, and this was like an insult for the British. How, like, you're not having the trade relationship with us, but you are having good relationship with the French. And because of this anger, the British East India Company, the English East India Company, they attacked Mysore. All right, and this attack on Mysore took place in the form of Anglo-Mysore wars between the company and the rulers of Mysore. So this was the Anglo-Mysore war, because Tipu Sultan was having, the rulers of Mysore rejected to have any kind of relationship with British, but Tipu Sultan was having good relationship with the French. The British got angry, and that is why they attacked the rulers of Mysore. And this battle between the rulers of Mysore and the English East India Company was known as the Anglo-Mysore War, which was fought between 1767 to 1799. All right. So the war ended. Now who got defeated? Definitely it was Tipu Sultan. It was the rulers of Mysore who got defeated, and Tipu Sultan was killed in this battle. All right, he died while defending his state, his place. In defense of his capital Seringamapatnam. All right, so while fighting for his own capital, which was Seringamapatnam, Tipu Sultan got killed. Then after the Tipu Sultan got killed, and after the defeat of the rulers of Mysore, the British started to annex some of the territories of Tipu Sultan. So those territories which were under the control of Tipu Sultan. So after the defeat of the rulers of, or after the death of Tipu Sultan, the British took away all the territories which were under Tipu Sultan and gave it to the Marathas and the Nizam of Hyderabad. Now, why did he give those places? Because the British thought that if they will give those territories to the Nizam of Hyderabad or the Marathas, then the British will get some help from them. However, the British did not take that. All right, the Marathas refused to accept it. The territories that were given to them, the Marathas refused to accept it, and the rest of the kingdom was restored to the minor hire of Udayars, the old Hindu ruling dynasty of Mysore, by subsidiary alliance. So when the Marathas refused to accept it, the rest of the kingdom of Mysore was given to the minor hire. Minor means one who is not an adult. So a minor hire of the ruler of Mysore, but also that was captured through subsidiary alliance. So Mysore came under the control of the British. So even though a ruler was there, but there was this subsidiary alliance. So through subsidiary alliance also, Mysore came under the direct control of the British, and also through the Anglo-Mysore war, where Tipu Sultan and the rulers of Mysore got defeated. Through that also, Mysore came under the direct control of the British. Now let's look into the war against Marathas. So that there was a third battle of Panipat, which took place in 1761, resulted in the humiliated defeat of the Marathas. All right. So it was the third battle of Panipat, which took place between the British and the Marathas. So the Maratha Empire was divided into loose confederacy and ruled by independent Maratha chiefs. All right. So, but the Maratha kingdom was divided. Confederacy means small units. The Maratha kingdom was also divided into small places or small units. And these small units were ruled by independent Maratha rulers. Like, who were those independent Maratha chiefs? Like the Gaekwars, Bhosles, Sindhias, Holkar. So these were the Maratha rulers, Maratha chiefs. So after the defeat of Peshwa Madhav Rao I in 1772, internal quarrels among the Marathas enabled the British to interfere in their internal affairs. So what happened among the Maratha chiefs only? There was no cooperation, or there was no unity. So after the death of this ruler Peshwa Madhav Rao I, there was internal quarrels. There was internal conflict among the Marathas only. So this became a advantage. So the British tried to take advantage of this situation, seeing that the Marathas themselves were not having unity. So because of the British interference in the Maratha kingdom and the administration, it led to a number of wars, and these wars were known as the Battle of these wars were known as the Anglo-Maratha War. All right, I just made a mistake there. The third battle of Panipat was fought between the Afghan forces of Ahmed Shah Durrani and the Maratha Empire. So the Marathas got defeated in the third battle of Panipat. So after the Marathas got defeated in the third battle of Panipat, there was internal conflict among the Maratha chiefs themselves. All right. So as there was internal conflict, it gave the English East India Company an advantage, or no, they took a chance to interfere in the internal matters of the Marathas. And after this, a series of war took place, which came to be known as the Anglo-Maratha War. There were 3 wars that have taken place. The first Anglo-Maratha War took place between 1775 and 1782. But this war, the first Anglo-Maratha War, ended with a treaty of Salbai. What was this treaty? In this treaty, both the British and the Marathas, they agreed that there will be peace. They will not fight with the Marathas, that the British will not fight with the Marathas for 20 years. So the war just ended like that, and there was no one who got defeated or who came out to be victorious. So the first Anglo-Maratha War, it ended with a treaty of Salbai, which said that for 20 years there will be peace and they will be not attacking the Marathas. Then the second Anglo-Maratha War, which took place between 1803 and 1805. The peace was concluded after the Treaty of Salbai got ended. The British started to capture Orissa and other parts of western Gujarat and Bundelkhand from Marathas. So in the second Anglo-Maratha War, after the peace treaty of Salbai ended, after that peace ended, that for 20 years they will not attack. After that, the British started to capture all the territories that were under the Marathas' rule, that is Orissa, Bundelkhand and the western parts of Gujarat. Then the third Anglo-Maratha War, which took place between 1817 and 1818, it was the final war between the Marathas and the British, and here also the Marathas got defeated. Here the British destroyed the Confederacy. The Confederacy, you remember that the Maratha kingdom was divided into small units, and each units there was a Maratha chief or a Maratha ruler will be there. So after the Marathas got defeated in the third Anglo-Maratha War, the Peshwa was removed. All right, the Peshwa or the ruler of Maratha was removed. The British destroyed those confederacy, and the Peshwa was removed, and he was sent to Bithur and near Kanpur. Bithur is a place near Kanpur, and on a pension of 8 lakhs a year. He said that you will have to, the British said that you are removed from your position, you go to Bithur, you stay there, and in a year they will be sending 8 lakhs of rupees. And in this way, after the removal of the Peshwa from the Maratha kingdom, all the territories that were captured by the Peshwa, it came under the direct control of the British. So with this war also, the company was almost having all control over all the present day India south of the Satluj River. So but through the different methods that were adopted, like the subsidiary alliance, the doctrine of lapse, through these methods the British started to conquer almost all over the parts of India. It started to spread its control over all the parts of India. So it controlled Mysore, and Mysore came under its control through the Anglo-Mysore War, where Tipu Sultan got defeated. Then there was an Anglo-Maratha War, where in the third battle of Panipat, which was fought between the Afghan forces and the Marathas, where the Marathas got defeated. Then as there was no unity among the Maratha chiefs, the British took a chance of this, and through this the British started to interfere in the internal matters of the Marathas, and through this the Marathas and the British, they entered into three Anglo-Maratha wars. The first Anglo-Maratha War was ended in peace through the Treaty of Salbai. The second Anglo-Maratha War, the British captured almost all the territories that were under the Marathas, like Orissa, western part of Gujarat, and Bundelkhand. And Bundelkhand. And in the third Anglo-Maratha War, the final war, the Marathas got defeated, and the Peshwa of the Marathas was removed from his position. He was sent to Bithur with a pension of 80 lakhs a year, and through this the British were able to control, establish its control almost over the all parts of India. So all right students, so this is all for today's class. I hope this class was again useful for you. You have understood about Battle of Buxar, Battle of Plassey. You have understood what is the doctrine of lapse, the subsidiary alliance, and how did the British control expanded its control over parts of India like Mysore and Maharashtra. Among the Marathas also there was Anglo-Maratha War, the Anglo-Mysore War. So with this we come to an end of today's class. In next class we'll come with a few more new topics. Till then, take care everyone. Thank you.